You are looking live at the Texas Tower. The nice walk up the six-pack. It's a beautiful day here in Austin. 85 degrees, sunny, pretty clear skies. There's a different feel in the air in Austin this week. It's OU week, and OU's practice week begins now. Well, this is Texas practice, and that is number 14, David Ash, the quarterback who took a couple more snaps, and Texas fans probably thought, you see the numbers, 7 of 12 for 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, hit the bomb to Mike Davis. Great numbers against Iowa State. How much will David Ash play this Saturday at the Cotton Bowl? You see the former punter and quarterback at Belton getting a couple rips in with his leg. He got a couple rips in with his arm as Texas was able to defeat Iowa State 37-14. We'll definitely show you the quarterbacks. We're going to show you 8 periods here of Texas football as you take a look at them stretching right now and always getting ready for what should be a very, very fun week. A lot of hype built around this week. Well, welcome to Texas football practice. I'm Kevin Dunn alongside Ahmad Brooks. And Ahmad, you played in this game 4 times. There's so much hype, so much being built around this game. How do you prepare for this week?
Well, KD, it's like no other experience you'll ever have as a football player. I count that also my NFL time. This practice, this week, everything is very important. It's much more intense. And this is the type of game that can really change the course of your career. We talked about it, and I just love the excitement that's building. I wish I had some pads, KD.
Yeah, I know. You feel like you were
exciting.
ready to go. We watched
Indeed.
the Iowa State game. You were ready to go on that. Let's take a look at our practice headlines right here. The rivalry renewed. The Red River rivalry. Make sure you say it slow so you can get it out. Texas facing number 3 Oklahoma. The Horns almost got into the AP top 10. They got in, snuck right there at number 11. The Cotton Bowl, always a special place. Who knows how long they're going to be playing this rivalry at that field. Both undefeated for the first time since 2008. We'll get into some of those numbers later on in this practice. Some key injuries for Texas. Certainly you look at Christian Scott. He is out versus Oklahoma, out indefinitely with the right wrist. Scott had just gotten back to this team. Ahmad, a former safety here, will give you his thoughts on the depth of the Texas secondary. And strong first impression. How about Texas outscoring their opponents 62-0 in the first half in the last 2 games? And Ahmad, we can go and pick up right there because this is a team that started slowly in the first couple games. That's not been the case. They have forced 6 turnovers in the first quarter of the last 2 games.
Well, that is fantastic because it had been a team the first 2 ball games that had been finishing strong, and now you've seen them turn into a team that can dominate early on. And when you put together 2 halves of performance, it increases your chances each and every week to come away with that much-needed victory, particularly when you play at one of the top winningest universities in the country.
Well, and these are 2 of the storied universities when you look at the numbers for Texas and Oklahoma. All-time wins. Texas is 2nd with 854. Oklahoma is 7th. Texas is 3rd in winning percentage, winning 72% of their games. Oklahoma is 5th. I mean, Ahmad, when you break it down, this is one of the best rivalries out there, and the quarterback position is going to be so important for Texas. What were your thoughts of how Case McCoy and David Ash performed against Iowa State?
The most important thing was, KD, they protected the football. This part of this offense, you're going to primarily rely on your running ability, but they also have to throw over the top. A lot of downfield passing we've seen, that's what they do. They want to run and run and run and hit you with the play action, and they've been able to do it. These 2 guys are protecting the football. I've been very impressed because they're not old, but they're playing very mature in the pocket and making good decisions.
What's going to be the key for both these guys facing a very fast and a very aggressive Oklahoma defense?
Handle all the different looks. Bob Stoops is going to throw the kitchen sink at them. He's going to give them everything he possibly can. They're young, never have played in this game, more or less started. So you can imagine that he's going to bring some pressure, bring some various looks up front. Also with the linebackers, the secondary will also try to confuse them with the way that they line up. And that'll be the most important thing. And once you settle into the game, it's just football, and that's what they have to remember.
Are you surprised that Brian Harsin has dialed up so many trick plays? I mean, he's already had 4 trick plays that you thought maybe 2 of those he would have saved for Oklahoma. I'm not saying he doesn't have any more. I'm sure the man does in his bag of tricks. He's got a pretty deep bag, but are you surprised he's already shown for those, or maybe is he trying to do that on purpose?
Well, we were a team traditionally that was behind as far as numbers were concerned in doing trick plays. So we're much more, of course, in my opinion, I think prepared to do that, and they've done an excellent job of putting that into the system. But I also think what I'm surprised with is the effectiveness. They've been fantastic at making those happen.
They have been. You see what they've done against Iowa State. Both 7 of 12. I mean, can't be more identical than that. Ash did throw for a couple more yards, took some deep shots, and did have 2 touchdowns. McCoy took a deep shot to Jackson Shipley, though, and Shipley went up there and got that. I guess he's one of those guys that if you're going to have one-on-one, you go ahead and take a shot, even though he's a freshman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really convinced that David Ash has also, what you didn't see grow was his confidence. And this young man, they allowed him the opportunity to pass in those third down situations over the top. That really helps breed confidence in this young man who primarily his strength is running the football at this point. But the more he continues to develop under the leadership of Major Applewhite and Brian Harsin, I guarantee you he will get much more effective at throwing that deep ball, because you have to in this offense in order to make big plays, especially on Saturday. Big plays change the course of this game more than any other game that Texas or Oklahoma will play.
And one thing that Texas had to learn over the years that Oklahoma State and Les Miles certainly did learn. Remember when they were knocking Oklahoma off in the early 2000s against this cover 2 zone, sometimes you got to go over the top. We'll get into that. You can break that down and exactly what that means here in a little bit when we focus back on the offense. But we got to take a look at the defense. The defense, we mentioned the turnovers they've been forcing in the first quarter. There's Mykel Thompson, number 7. He forced a turnover, but off a block punt. How impressed are you with this young guy?
Well, I think both of these players are about to get their time to shine. And you feel it when it happens. The week leading up to my first start here back in 1999, I remember how things changed for me. And this young man is, well, because one, you go from watching on the sideline to putting on the pads and knowing you're going to play. And you're part of the game plan, and that really helps young players. But stepping into that role and being able to share the spotlight here at the University of Texas is a big adjustment. And I think these young guys that have come in this entire class, they've been very mature at handling all that comes along with being a football player here at Texas. And these young safeties, Sherrod Evans as well as Mykel Thompson, are now going to be heavily relied upon with Nolan Brewster out, Christian Scott out. And they're going to be forced to grow up extremely fast, KD.
Well, both Thompson and Evans are true freshmen. You know, it's not only the freshmen, this is going to be their first time. And if you've never been to the Cotton Bowl, I know most of you watching at home, you've probably been there once. You've certainly seen it on TV a lot. Ahmad, you played there. It truly is one of a kind, and it's unique, and it's one of those experiences that you just can't describe it until you've been through it. With all these young freshmen, with all the new coaches, Benny Wiley, Harsin, Cyrils, Bo Davis, Manny Diaz, is it going to be a positive or negative that they've never been through this before?
Well, I think it'll work the way it works when the ball is kicked off for the first time.
Okay.
You just don't know in this game, KD,
right.
And that's the scariest thing. For a coach, you can prepare, you can plan, you can go over everything you want to. As a player, the same thing can happen. And you come out there and just have tough times. I've had great plays at Texas OU game. I've had some bad ones, and ones that could cost your team a victory. And that is what's on the line here for these young guys. And if they can understand that, all the meanwhile telling themselves it's just football. It's what I've been playing since I was 8 years old. This is why I came to this university. Handle the moment. Share it. And know that for you, all it's about is the result at the end of the game. Because if you win, everything feels better. But when you lose this ball game, and I lost 2, let me tell you something, man. It really is carryover throughout the following week, but it's carryover throughout the season when you see that L next to the Oklahoma game, because this is a big weekend in October.
Well, I know you know the bus ride back on I-35 back from Dallas, and I remember as a student, it felt a lot different. That was a much quicker trip on the way back on Sunday after a W. I can't imagine when you're on that bus. It just must be night and day whether you win or lose that game on how you feel on heading back on 35.
Excitement when you win, dead silent when you lose.
Really?
And that is exactly what it is. There's no question. And you know, and I think for players, because it means so much. And, you know, the fans are able to leave even though they're upset. We have to come back in here and watch film on Sunday. Oof. So you want to make sure that that film session on Sunday is good, and then you still have to answer questions to the media on Monday. So there's a 3-day drag, either good or bad, in losing most games or winning most games here, but particularly with Texas OU. So I think for these young players, and even for the older players, just really cherishing the moment. Like I said, KD, this is the biggest game I've ever played in football in my life. Be excited about it and be so
NFL
grateful
included.
and thankful. Indeed.
Buffalo.
Yes, versus New England. With
Wow.
Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady going together for the first time, nothing compares to this game.
Well, that says everything. Keith Moreland, who won a World Series, said that walking down the Cotton Bowl tunnel, he was more excited and was actually a bigger stage than an at-bat in the World Series. We take a look at the Texas defense the last 2 games. They've been very good. A little bit of bend, don't break, but they've also been aggressive. You see the tackles for loss with 12, 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries. And Ahmad, you've talked about this. I know there was a lot of talk about sacks. You're right below that stat right there. If you don't get a sack, but you force pressure and it causes a pick, that's much better than a sack. We'll take the possession.
Very true, and what's not on there is the amount of points that they're not giving up. These guys are preventing big plays. They're creating turnovers. They're just playing extremely well, and so I think what's important to talk about is the way that they've responded to this system, and they've been exceptionally well with all that they've been given early on. And this is a defensive game coming up Saturday, man.
It is.
Your defense can really take control of the crowd, because defense is played with the passion that comes along with your fans that are yelling and screaming, and they can do that for sure.
Yeah, well, this is a game also that's built on the offensive line. You see the offensive line doing something that defensive backs would never do, push-ups. Sorry, I had to get that in there. But the Texas offensive line's been great. One of the main reasons, a guy who's slapping him right there, Benny Wiley, the strength and conditioning coach, ran a really good piece on Longhorn Extra about how he's able to get the offensive line really in the type of strength and conditioning they need to be in for the offseason. You see Major Applewhite right there. Take a look at a student manager having some fun. There's a lot of tense feelings going on this week, but you still have to have some fun. We'll be back with Texas practice after this.